You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the August 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting for the Municipal District of St. Stephen. I'm Florence Mitchell. Today's meeting begins with two presentations, the first by Brent Harris of St. John nonprofit Vacant to Vibrant on a proposal to convert vacant buildings and land into transitional housing units. The second presentation will be made by Dillon Consulting Limited on the results of a road condition assessment and needs analysis. Under new business, Mayor McEachern and Director of Community Services Kev Sumner will provide a community safety update. Committee will discuss a potential process for managing road repair requests from rural ward residents and a request to rename Town Square. Committee will discuss the third draft of the disposition and acquisition of municipal land policy and will review bylaw L2, a bylaw to license and regulate peddlers, street vendors, transient traders, and buskers. Finally, committee will discuss a sample pre-budget department submission. Now let's join committee in the Moosehead Room at the Garceland Civic Center in St. Stephen.
To our Committee of the Whole meeting of August 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Call to order. We're missing Councillor Rodas. Is that her? Oh, she's here. All right, so before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered today on ancestral unceded territory of the Passamaquoddy peoples. I would take a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda of the committee meeting of a whole for August 14th be approved.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Wheaton and Councillor Eastman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. Any conflicts of interest this evening? Seeing none. All right, I need a mover and seconder for the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held July 10th, 2024 be approved as presented. Councillor Heislip, Councillor Harding. Any questions? Thank you. Motion approved. All those in favor? Something didn't sound right. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right. Next up, we've got public delegations, vacant two vibrant presentations by Brent Harris.
He's coming in online. I'm submitting him now, Your Worship.
Okay.
Hey, Brent, you got us?
I do. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay.
Yep. All good.
Beautiful.
Welcome, Brent. All right.
So you can feel free to take it away.
Yes, floor is yours, sir.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was coming a little later in the meeting. I didn't know that was mine to take. Thank you, Common Council, for having me. My name is Brent Harris. I'm actually a resident here in St. John, a city councilor here in St. John, but I'm the executive director of the St. John II Library. And we have run a sort of a social enterprise construction team here in the city for the last 4 years. And we've been speaking with some members in St. Stephen. I'm actually originally from Black's-Harbor. So I went to Funday and we sort of competed, of course. The old rivalry between Funday and St. Stephen High. But most of the time the basketball team beat us. But there was one year where we were able to squeak out a win against your boys. So anyways, it's good to be talking to some fellow Charlotte Countyers about this, and today I'm excited to kind of introduce you all to really our first foray into a presentation to other municipalities. We've been developing an initiative here in St. John over the past year called Vacant to Vibrant, and so for the next few minutes I'm going to try to just blitz this presentation. I have pretty big appendix that we can go into for some more details, but to kind of give you the high level of what it is that we offer. And if you hear any kids in the background, apologies. That's one of the reasons why I couldn't be there with you in person tonight. I didn't want to miss this opportunity to speak with you, but we've got 3 little ones running around here. So I'm going to try to share my screen here, and we'll make sure that that's work out. Jeff, is there any specific app or something I'm supposed to use for this? I don't see, oh, there it is, share screen, sorry, there we go. I usually see it now. Can everybody see this?
Just give it a second to load here, Brent. It's trying.
Okay.
Yeah, we got you.
Beautiful. Okay. So yeah, Make It the Vibrant is, as I said, this initiative that we've been working on over the past 8 months, and we've got a bunch of partners that say hello. Go. Say hello. Sorry guys, like I said, there's a few little ones running around here. And we've really incubated this from within an existing social enterprise using our experience. That's 5 years. My experience of swinging a hammer for 15. I actually started in construction when I was 15 years old, working for Richard Stewart on a group home in St. Stephen. So that's where my initial days started. But this initiative really has brought together a couple different organizations to help us get to this point. It's the Adapt Foundation up here in St. John, as well as United Way. Through them, that connection was made. And really, Make It Vibrant is this new initiative, like I said, that is seeking to discover ways to tackle vacancy and create housing opportunities through strategic partnerships with municipalities, frontline service organizations. So we're going to get to some of those pieces here, and I'm going to start trying to move through this here. Let's see if we can go to the next slide. So really, this comes out of a change in face of housing security. We probably 2 months of that 8 months was doing community survey work broadly in St. John and the region here. And what we found after data set, and you would all be very well aware of this, is that the face of housing insecurity is changing. When I came to the city and I started working for the homeless shelter that was here, running their construction team, their little social enterprise in 17, there was a steady state of around 65, 70 individuals at any point in time who were experiencing homelessness. We're well up past 250 here in the city, and I know your community has been hit really hard with people who have been transient, moving in, having no place, people being pushed out of apartments that have been bought up, and it's not just people who are classic cases any longer. There are neighbors. These are people, in some cases, who are in emergency shelters, who are working full-time. These are seniors who I've seen who are couch surfing now, living with their kids, sitting on couches because they can no longer afford the price point. So really, this initiative is sort of aimed at that wide cohort. We're not dealing with, and we don't have the competency to be replacing, social services and social development, and with that high acuity group of people who would have, major mental health concerns and be in addiction recovery and things like that. But for a pretty wide cohort of individuals who are insecure in their housing, that's what we've aimed this at. We know the housing demand is greater than ever. We're seeing development happen at a really fast pace, but there's very little capacity in the sector. There's more guys and gals leaving the industry every year who are 65, 70 years old, still swinging a hammer. The stat that I saw recently was for every 7 that leave the industry, there's 1 that enters. So we're hemorrhaging tradespeople at a rate we can't replace them. And until we start to get that number up, the capacity is going to continue to shrink. So it kind of goes without saying that we need to kind of discover some creative initiatives to create housing. So we're devoted to ending vacancy in all forms, and we've looked at the issue of our provincial level, but also as a region here from St. John. We've sort of taken a peek at St. Stephen experience through just conversations with residents in St. Stephen. We were down to speak with Cheyenne and Brett McPherson and the group that they have, just even personal networks and individuals I know, and talking about that. So we know that in every community, there is vacancy in some form that has the potential, especially in the nonprofit sector, to be considered for development, for housing, and it's difficult, especially when you look at an old rundown building, the concept can be tear it down, and that can really create a high complexity of construction that's needed. And in many cases, there are pathways to renovation and reconstruction with an existing asset. So how do we do this? And this is sort of what we're here to talk to tonight. This is really an open conversation that we hope to start. And again, thank you to Jeff for setting this up. Jeff and I had an opportunity to have this conversation a little while ago, and I said, really this is not about a specific ask. It is about entering into a conversation that we're trying to do from here in St. John, because this is the team, this is where we built the team, but we are, ready to kind of move out into the wider region of southern New Brunswick, southwestern New Brunswick, start engaging with communities. And so really our approach is to reach out to understand those complete needs of those in housing insecure situations in each community. Those needs are going to be different. The types of people who are experiencing, in some cases it's the fact that somebody's spending 45% of their income on shelter. And that puts them in a serious, fragile position when it comes to housing security. In other cases, they lost a job, they've gone through a separation, the stories can be pretty diverse. So understanding who we're dealing with is the first step, and then building a plan is the second step, to incorporate and to look at what assets are there. Are there stranded commercial assets that we could build within? Are there, vacant lots that are difficult to build on that may be able to find a unique solution for? Are there, vacant buildings that, people can't find the owner to petition them for redevelopment? But creating a map of what those vacant assets look like for each community is that second step. Then that third step is really, what's the financial model? So I didn't have my teammates with me tonight. There was just something that came up with Justin Sweeney, who actually went to community college in St. Andrews. He's the founder of a group called Community Social Finance. He's helped us develop some pretty interesting financial leveraging tools around this. And I'm just cognizant of time here, so I don't want to go over. I'm realizing I'm close to time. But through community bonding and initiatives like that, we've been able to kind of discover that it isn't really just about direct investment from the municipality. Jed? Turn that off, sir. Sorry. Through other initiatives that he has helped us pioneer, we realized there is a way to help community at the very grassroots level engage in some of these housing solutions. So that is one thing that we are really excited about. It's something that not a lot of communities understand how to do. Apologies.
Brent, we really can't hear them that bad. Anyway, we can hear you. You're hearing them more than we are.
He's right behind me, and my little one just sat down with a drumstick. So that's step 3, and then step 4 is executing that plan with the community. So, and wherever possible, finding those ways to develop pathways into the construction industry. So one of the things that Tulare has been successful in is running sort of an agile construction program to train people how to enter into the construction industry. Maybe they've never swung a hammer before, and so we've kind of developed this partnership with NDCC around micro-credentialing. It's not something that can work in all communities and all situations, but that's at step 5. Whenever we can, it's about leveraging the need in the community to pair with those jobs to actually swing hammers at those homes. So Vacant to Vibrant has this sort of this landscape, the sandbox of vacancy it plays in to utilize our partners in RJ Bartlett Engineers, Ozda Architects, as well as our own team who have been working on this for a few years. And we leverage that with these options around our Amherst Homes training program to actually utilize local, train and to utilize local labor just to make those homes, those future homes. So that is our ask. It's, this is the end of the presentation. I have a whole bunch of other slides that really dive into the details around costing, modeling, operational models, and things like that. But those are, minutia details. For us, for now, our ask is like identifying those, that location to get started. Is it St. Stephen? Is there a specific area of St. Stephen? Is there a specific group of people that are looking to be identified? But that's stuff that has to kind of continue to happen. And for us, it really is about really demonstrating to communities that through partnerships with nonprofits like ours, and through initiatives like Vacant and Vibrant, we really can leverage a lot of outside funding. New Brunswick really doesn't pull in on a per capita basis the bilateral funding opportunities that exist to it from the levels around CMHC, at the federal level, the Community Housing Corporation. There is provincial funding buckets that are available We've certainly seen creative solutions like 12 Neighbors with Marcelo Bros project or Rising Tide in Moncton. And those are creative solutions that we're able to leverage a fair bit of outside funding. And so through these kind of strategic partnerships, that is sort of our goal, is to figure out which communities want us to get active and get activated in. What does that look like? And then where do we go, and how do we kind of form that partnership to present to the federal government, present to the provincial government to say, hey, we've got this arrangement, we've got this goal, we want to solve this housing piece that's in our backyard. We need your help to do A, B, and C. And so crafting that ask by starting here at this level is really important. So anyway, that's it for me. If there's any questions, I really appreciate your time. This really was just an attempt to make sure that folks in St. Stephen, and I know it's Town of St. Stephen, names are changing now with municipal reform. That's really nobody here, but we would like to engage, and we would like to kind of start that conversation about who wants us to get active in the community.
Thank you, Brent. And first of all, before anyone, if there is any question, I just want to apologize. I thought you were already online when I introduced you, and then when we got you online, you were already introduced, and you weren't there to witness that. So my apologies for that. Is there any questions or comments from council? Councilor Otis?
Hi, Brent. Thanks for coming. My quick question would be, what is your ideal kind of locations that you've tackled before? Are you more interested in finding somewhere that's like smaller duplex size, or is it a vacant piece of land, or is it larger multi-units? Just because I know time-wise, it's important to get things off the ground fairly quickly, I'm sure, from your standpoint. So what do you find has been the most successful in terms of timeline and getting things off the ground, and also lobbying with the provincial government?
Yeah, so we've got some ambitious projects on the go. I'll just, this is one. We just put a proposal in on an abandoned arena here in the city. This one is, as far as cost per door, as far as low-hanging fruit, stranded commercial warehouse assets like this are so viable, and they're very quick. So, this is the Valier, this is a floor plan we've developed. We've really created a proposal here. This is very specific to the Valier Arena here on the west side of St. John. Social enterprise development being incorporated here. But the reason, this is another screenshot, I would share about a vacant lot where you can develop sort of a modular CCAN approach. So you don't, the level of complexity around construction is pretty intense when you think about putting up a 5 or 6 story building. You can't just get average construction teams to do that. There is a level of complexity that is needed, and those guys are usually, and gals, are in high demand, and they book out 9 to 10 months. So you're 3 to 4 years before you see the completion of those kind of projects. This is what we're involved with right now. Buildings that most people would say, God, drop a ball on that. These can be pretty fast, and honestly, these sometimes are the easier starting point. Renovating these older buildings that someone has walked away from, people can't get a hold of. They might be tax delinquent. They might be 4 or 5 years beyond property taxes. And there's pathways toward renovation in these that can be quick. We're working on a 4-unit right now, not this exact one, but similar kind of era to this. And if we were to have unlocked all of the money, it's about a $300,000 renovation. If we were to unlock all that money tomorrow, it would be 5 months and people would be living there. So that is an ideal. But as far as your opportunity cost, stranded large assets that people don't know how to build in. Our partnership with the University of Wood Science and Technology has already got with it some federal money. We've already been able to unlock $1 million worth of research to develop these pod types of units, which are really small footprint apartments that can be basically built prescriptively within these commercial assets. And I mean, it's not just arenas. It can be an old warehouse. It could be, in Toronto, they've started building inside of, they built one inside of an old waterworks facility, for example. So I guess it just depends. Oftentimes, like I said, renovating old buildings and coming up with that plan is the fastest and easiest. But as far as your cost per door and just being able to house people really quickly and in volume, it really is more of these stranded assets like this.
Councilor?
So if you, let's say the municipality had a vacant property, in terms of your organization, you come in, you do the work, and then who takes ownership of kind of, if it's a transitional housing model, who takes ownership of that? Are you usually looking to advocate for that responsibility to be passed off? Or, and I'm wondering too, if the city of St. John has ever, passed off maybe vacant properties, and how that, as a municipality, what our role would be if we have assets. I know we're not interested in long-term management of, being a landlord. We're not.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Our goal is to kind of provide, and in Quebec, this actually happens all the time. This is what we've learned along the way. In Quebec, they have these entities called technical resource groups. And what they do is they act as an intermediary for local nonprofits who really, they are the grassroots nonprofits, civic engagement organizations. They're the ones that are going to be there after the project's done, and they're going to be the ones looking after. So our goal is always to strike that partnership with those organizations, so we know who's going to take over the management and operation of this building. But oftentimes those local groups, they don't have the capacity to become development experts. They don't know how to find all of the different pots of money that exist at the federal, provincial level, and how to navigate that quickly. That can be cumbersome. They're normally staffed and they're maxed. So we kind of come in as that technical resource group in this case, and we find those pathways. So for us, for example, we've got 2 projects on the go here in St. John with abandoned buildings. And our partner, our strategic partner for that is the John Howard Society of the Planning Region, which is also, another active member in the St. Stephen area. So, whether it's them or another one, really it is about, that's really that step 2, like I said, and step 1 of the process. Once we know there's a municipality that wants to get activated, and once we sort of narrow the scope on what that is and who it's for, or who it's with, in some cases who the local partners are, that unlocks a lot of ability. Just having a letter of support from a municipality that we can take and show, say, look, we don't know everything yet, but we know that we have a partner at the table with, in this case, could be the municipality of St. Stephen, that wants us to do these things. And with your support, we can get to work, and we can bring those viable models to a development phase. And so yeah, usually, like I said, it can be long-term leases. I know your question was specifically about who owns these buildings long-term. Sometimes we're looking at a model right now where maybe we do hold the property long-term, but there's a long-term sort of 15, 20-year lease agreement with that strategic partner. There is a new fund that is about to open up at the federal level called the CMHCC fund and the acquisition fund, and within those 2, they will unlock a lot of money for nonprofits to start buying up buildings and assets that currently doesn't exist. I know here in the city, John Howard, for example, had to return $300,000 of the federal money because they kept getting outbid by the market. Somebody was happy to come in and drive the bid up on a property, an extra $100,000, and they had a pretty strict amount of money that they had to work with. And so they ended up losing out on the timeline and couldn't get their project off the ground. So this fund is going to be coming online in the fall. That will allow local, nonprofits the ability to start buying up those buildings, and they could be buying them from us at that kind of break-even cost.
Councilor Cornish?
Hi, Brett. How are you today?
Hello there.
Yeah, just a quick question, just of interest. Have you actually used or are going to use, or whatever hypothetical, like for instance, St. Stephen High School has a carpentry course down here, and I know a lot of the high schools do not have trades in them. I know St. Stephen High does have that, and I actually know the teacher that's involved in it. And I know they take on projects like they build baby barns and things like this, where call them mini housing constructions, but at least it gives the students a chance to use their skills. And I know that, I don't know the carpentry portion of in our community college in St. Andrews, but I do know that they have electricians that's turned out there each year. Now, I'm just wondering if there's a possibility, if you probably entertained that, but there is a possibility, I think there would be a possibility of using these students rather than building a module inside of a classroom to actually take their instructor, supervisor, teacher out to some of these sites. Instead of building a baby barn, maybe they could put up studding, ceilings, gyprock, whatever they have to do, vice versa with the electrical. Anyway, that's what I just asked, and I don't know. I know these things are available in this area. I just don't know how you'd go about utilizing them, but I just wonder if you actually entertained that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. The timing on that's really interesting too, because we just, like I said, we just submitted that final proposal for our Hammers to Homes training program, and that kind of is exactly what you're saying. It's this micro-credentialed approach to trades education. Instead of saying to somebody, hey, instead of going to university, go get your first block in welding or electrical or plumbing or carpentry and spend that money on tuition there. And then, oh, by the way, now you're going to be an apprentice for 3 years, and then you get your seal. Now you can go really be full-fledged. This is more trying to break down those tasks on a job site and make it so that in 6 to 8 weeks you can become competent at hanging board or crack filling or some other component, like installing windows. And so we've developed that partnership with NBCC to be able to deliver that and develop that curriculum. And so there's no reason why that couldn't be at the high school level. I mean, we already have university accreditation high school courses that are taught in our high school system. It really is something that is an obvious second step for that type of micro-credential. If you're leaving high school and you've already got a micro-credential and hanging board, that makes you a lot better, a more attractive employee as well in the construction industry than somebody who's just entering, or somebody who maybe learned a little about a lot of things in their first block. So I think there's a pathway there for sure.
Okay, Councilor Rodas.
So if we could find you something by September, could you have boots on the ground by September?
That would depend. So if we can move quick, it would depend on the situation. And we're sort of in a holding pattern right now, waiting for Pedal to get back to us on the Hammers to Homes piece. But essentially, once Pedal has approved that program, which we've, to be honest, we've already run a similar program called Sawhorse for 3 years. So there's a world in which we can deploy the Sawhorse program really quickly. The difference between the Sawhorse program and Hammers to Homes is that we, I assume you're talking about the people swinging hammers at this, or do you mean our? Yeah. So if you came to us and said, here's 2 buildings, the process then would have to be, okay, who's going to own this? Who's going to operate it? Who are we building it for? Okay, now we go to our designers. We figure that out. That kind of creates this aggregate amount of workload that we can cost. And now we go headhunting the funding. Sometimes you can engage some of these community bonding, sort of local fundraising initiatives to unlock some of that work quickly, and then you can get that reimbursed or whatever through other levels of government. It just depends on what the appetite is. But moving quick is something we can do, but it would depend on the project and exactly what the design is for. But imagining that the building was there, the partnership was developed, and we knew who it was for, there's no reason why that can't be a quick 2-month turnaround before there's actually work happening on site, permitting and all that.
Okay, thank you very much, Brent. Appreciate you, I guess, not coming here, showing up here online, whatever, and look forward to hearing some more. So, and
I'll keep some communication open with Brent as we move forward.
Please do.
And do some thinking around sites and various options.
yeah, all right, there you go. Okay,
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya. Okay, so next up, we have Dillon Consulting. Road condition assessment and needs analysis results.
I don't have to push this button right up here.
I don't know. Is it green now?
It is, yep. Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me come and provide an overview of the work that we've been doing. My name's Taylor McNeil, and I'm a civil engineer at Dillon Consulting who mainly focuses on asset management, and I'm joined with Rory Pickard from our Fredericton office. So I'm going to provide an overview of the project that we did for the road condition assessment and needs analysis, and I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but if there's any questions, we can go through them at the end. Okay, so a general project overview. We did take 4 steps to complete our project, and I'll start with the goal and objective of the project was to look at the current state of the road. So in 2024, what's the snapshot of the roads and the condition? And then also look at a 10-year planning outlook and try to, have data and information to make informed and evidence-based decisions on capital spending on roads. So we did first a field program, and this field program was collecting data, and I'll go through a little bit more detail on each one of the steps that we took. After the field program, we did a state of roads, and this is the current condition, the needs analysis, and then improvement plan. Just kind of as a note, I will say that in this particular scope of work, we only looked at the roads in the town of St. Stephen, so it's a little bit gray right now for the other roads. So for this particular one right now, we are just looking at those existing roads. So our field program was completed in May of 2024. So we had 2 staff that actually went out and drove all the roads within the town boundary. And they used GIS, a combination of GIS and a software called TotalPave to collect the information on those roads. So we actually went out and visually assessed the roads and used some other tools desktop-wise to look and do some analysis. They both collected the TotalPave software, which is a New Brunswick-based software, collected what we call pavement condition index and also the international roughness index, which I'll explain on the next slide what those both mean because they are throughout the whole report and they'll be pretty important. So the pavement condition index is a scale that is measured from a 0 to 100. So if you think about back in the day when we were at school, 0 is not the best, and 100, you get your gold star. So 100 would be those new roads, and 0 would be roads that may need some attention. And the condition index is more a visual condition. It's not, it's what you see on the surface. It's not looking at the subsurface. Where the IRI value is actually looking at the ride comfortability of that particular road, and you may not visually be able to see anything, but when you're driving on it, it may be quite bumpy or there may be potholes. So that is looking at and considers more the actual subsurface of the roads. That does depend on the actual speed limit of that particular road. So it's not measured from like a 0 to 100. It does vary. If you have a road that's 50 kilometers per hour, the roughness scale will be different than a road that's 100 kilometers per hour. So after we did the actual field program, we took that data, so the PCI values and the IRI, and we did what we call this state of infrastructure or state of condition. And this is looking at, what are your assets worth? What is the condition? And what's the expected remaining useful life? So you can see here that we have a little bit of red on the screen. And this really just shows, again, a baseline for 2024. So it helps make those informed decisions on where we can be spending money to be able to improve these values and hopefully get a little bit more either yellow or green. And I do hope that no one is colorblind because I know this tends to be a hard scale to read sometimes with the yellow and red and green. So the total replacement value, which right now is basically $33 million for your road assets. This is based off of engineering estimates and fully replacing a road asset. It's not considering doing any kind of improvement. It's the current state right now. And we're also looking at your average PCI, which right now is 51. And that corresponds to a condition grade of poor. So based off of the specific PCI value, they've been bucketed into very good, good, fair, poor, and very poor. So you are just on the upper scale of poor. You're not quite on the bottom, so you're not very poor yet, but it is something that hopefully, the goal is to improve that over time. I will also point out on the right-hand side, we did divide the roads between collector roads and local roads. Your collector roads would be those designated highway roads, so they do tend to be in better condition because you do get external funding, so it's a little bit easier to spend money on those ones, versus your local roads, which would be more or less from your taxpayer dollars. So I think there's about 40% of your collector roads are in very poor or poor condition. And where your local roads, it's closer to 65% of your roads are in very poor or poor condition. So once we had the data for your current state, this helped us look at the needs or how do we move forward from here. So we know currently what's going on. Now, how do we move forward and how do we actually try to do something with this data? So in the road needs study, we did look at what we call life cycle activities, and you probably have heard some of these terms before. So preventative maintenance, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. Those are the three buckets that we looked at the roads and how we can move forward in that 10-year planning period. We're trying to be a little bit more proactive versus reactive. That does cost money to be able to be more proactive, and right now the roads are, I would say, it's a little bit of a hole that we need to get out of first before we can be more proactive. So there are buckets that we did allocate associated with those life cycle activities, and we used this when we did our actual modeling. And you can see there's a blue line that shows if we can move to more preventative maintenance versus reactive maintenance, hopefully we see a benefit in the roads lasting longer, and hopefully they don't cost as much money when we put actual capital dollars into them, and they're in better shape before we actually do some construction work. So actually the model, we have an internal program that we use that looks at the life cycle of roads, and this is based off the expected useful life engineering best practices and trying to predict. Again, it's really hard to predict the future, but this is a way that we can plan and try to allocate funding the best we can, and knowing that there's other things that may come up. So we looked at 4 budget scenarios. We looked at an unconstrained budget. So this is, if we had all the money in the world, how much money would we need to spend on our roads? This did come up with a large sum of money in the first year. And then we had reinvestment of 2% of that total replacement value. So that $33 million, we took 2% of that. If we put that into roads over the next 10 years, what would the outcome be? We had increasing, so scenario 3 and 4 are very similar scenarios. It's just one is getting to a 70 PCI in 5 years and then maintaining that, where the last one is actually getting to that 70 in 10 years' time. So all of them are in the report that should be in your council package, and you can see how the condition varies over the 10 years depending on how much budget is allocated to those scenarios. So I think on the next slide, it shows the summary of the scenarios. So you can see there that unconstrained budget, $26.2 million. That's a little bit of a sticker shock, and it's just there to show you the backlog that is there for roads. So there may have been, there's some roads that need attention, and that's just showing that there is quite a bit that needs to get done to be able to get to an 85 PCI. That is a little bit higher than maybe you need to get to, and this is where the municipality can decide, what do we feel comfortable as a municipality providing to residents for our roads? Is 70 kind of our, the threshold, or is 85? And again, it's an iterative approach to be able to make those decisions, because it all comes down to funding and being allocated. So the scenario that was actually chosen was scenario 4, or recommended, I should say. And this was due to getting to that 70 PCI in 10 years, and it's $16.5 million. Again, it's quite a large sum of money, but to be able to get to that performance that you're looking at, it's going to cost a good chunk of change. So that was our recommendation based off of the analysis of those different scenarios. Once we actually had the outputs of the scenarios, we did an improvement plan. So I think on the next slide, it kind of provides just a general overview. So this improvement plan is really trying to look at the useful life of the roads and trying to find those life cycle activities that best fit the road. In the report, you may see there is a lot of fully replacement of reconstruction of roads. That doesn't necessarily mean that that is going to be the activity that's done. It's just because of the PCI value, the condition value that's there. If it's below a certain threshold, that's what comes out as the output. So there may need to be more discussion on if that's the right activity that's required, or maybe it could be a rehabilitation, so less costly. However, we want to make sure that the roads are able to last the full 20 years. So if we make that decision to not do the full, shebang, if we go one tier lower, is that going to be okay? And are the roads going to actually last as long as they should? Or are we going to have to come back here in 5 years and fix them again? So the improvement plan just went through different activities, and we looked at 2 different steps and scenarios. So next slide shows the first step was identify the needs based off the criticality. So that was the output of our model. So based off that scenario 4, that was what we call our raw project list. However, there is some human part to that, and we have to make sure that we plan accordingly. If we have water or sewer on that same road, well, we're not going to pave it one year and then dig it up the next year and fix the water and sewer. So we want to make sure that we're bundling and making these decisions that fit kind of the other infrastructure that's along that road. So we did look at those 2 different steps of identifying the needs. Again, risk is another one that needs to be considered. If it's an emergency route and it's in really poor condition, maybe that's the first one that we need to do versus a road that there might be only 5 cars driving on. Unfortunately, that's just priority setting, and we need to make sure that we look at that as well. And then bundling of projects. So after all this, we got to a proposed improvement plan for the next 5 years. So this is generally, I think in your council package, it has a more detailed list of what roads make up these proposed years. However, for the next 5 years, it did come to a total of $9 million. Again, it's really just trying to show the need of funding on roads and trying to be a little bit more proactive, but we also need to try to get out of this hole a little bit before we can be proactive as well. Another, just to aside, the preventative maintenance, in the modeling, there wasn't much preventative maintenance that was coming up, and that was just because a lot of roads need that full reconstruction. I would suggest and recommend that preventative maintenance starts. So if you had a road that was paved 5 years ago, maybe crack sealing and pothole repairs is something that needs to be done now, or maybe there's a program so that you don't get back to this point. So that's all I have. So if there's any questions, myself or Rory can hopefully answer them. And thank you for letting me go over our results.
Any question? You? Yeah, Councilor Cornish?
Just a quick question. In your prioritization, I'm assuming you've prioritized which roads will be done first. It's not in the package. I couldn't find it anyway. Yeah. But I don't know if that should be exposed or not. But I'm just curious, over the next 3 years, which particular roadways do you have in your list? Now, you don't have to tell me, but I can look later if I have to.
It's in your packet.
It's in your bag.
Oh, is it there?
Yeah, that's okay. It's in the appendix, so it does show the road name and also the proposed year for capital planning. It does also say what the original year was, and if we moved it to a different year based off the bundling of different projects. So if there's a capital sewer and sanitary and water project on that same road, it's been pushed to the same year as that. So eventually, if we have more information on the sanitary and water mains, then we can start doing that kind of at the same time. Right now, it was really dependent on kind of what the plan was for some of those projects. So,
Thank you very much.
yeah.
Councillor?
Thanks for that. That was great. Quick question would be, in your experience in other municipalities or in cities, do you find across the board, just due to climate change and freezing and thawing and changes in the climate generally, is making it increasingly hard for municipalities to keep up with that, even the maintenance piece? And I just wondered if you have any recommendations too on new technologies that are actually working here in New Brunswick, because we had a completely different winter last winter than we ever have had. But mind you, we still have the issue of freezing and thawing. So that's something that I would be concerned about. Is just generally we could be putting this money in, but I'm sure based on climate change over the next couple of years, even those numbers could change again, right?
I'm going to answer half of it, and then I'll probably let Rory answer the other half. Yes, climate change is definitely an impact to a lot of roads, and I would say there is a funding gap across Canada for infrastructure. We get funding to be able to build infrastructure, but we don't necessarily look at the 20-year outlook of some of the infrastructure. So if we are, let's say we develop a neighborhood, well, the municipality will take over that infrastructure in year 1, but there may not be funding allocated for year 5 or 10. Like that is one part of it. And that's where I think with climate change, it's more related to risk. So if we lose that particular road, what is that going to impact to residents? So let's say King Street completely washes out and we're not able to have that access, or that service is gone. What does that mean for residents? So that's one part that we do look at quite a bit with municipalities, is how is that service being impacted by climate change related to technologies and other ways to design. I'll probably leave that with Rory for actual technical design of roads in that sense. But
Thank you, Taylor. And so as far as new technologies, thank you. So as far as new technologies, that's something, when we start looking at the rehabilitation methods for each particular street, so in any year and planning for that, it's something we would certainly need to look at. I don't have anything sort of new and innovative top of mind, but there are, there are some, tried and true methods like, simple crack sealing that help keep water out when you do get in of those fine cracks, when you do start getting freeze thaw. And that's something that, to my knowledge, the municipality isn't currently doing. So it's a relatively low cost thing that when you start to get, if you saw the condition curve that was up on the screen earlier, when you get down to a certain point on that, that's a good intervention that's not currently being done that can help extend the life of that and extend when you do have to go to full rehab. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
No, I was just going to mention that, that the report was really well done. As you can imagine, this is not my field of expertise, but I actually understood a lot. And usually about road, you think, well, somebody else is going to look after it, right? But there's really a lot to it, and I can really see how we could work with it, and I was happy to see the details, and I'll read it again and might have more questions. So thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor? Thank you. I did find it. I did see it earlier. I didn't pay attention close enough to what it was because it was in the grays and the whites and nothing like that. But I'm impressed the way you laid it out. At least it gives us a fresh look at what we need to do. A little frightening what we actually got to come up with, but for the last 10, 20 years, probably it's created ourselves a interesting dilemma, but somehow we've got to get those things fixed. But I do appreciate I'm looking at it here now, and yeah, I agree with it because I picked up the same streets I would have, but my engineering days are done. But anyway, other than that, I really appreciate your input, and I think it's very valuable.
No, I do hope that it's no surprise, I guess, is what I would say, but I know that it can be challenging to decide what one to pick first. So as you know, when we were looking at it, is definitely something that we try to take a third-party view and try to provide our best recommendation we can.
Push the button again. It's a tool that basically I don't believe we had. Okay?
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I do like the tool because it takes the politics out of it too. Like, but Sean?
I just had a little comment. When we did this review a while back, one thing that stood out to me, I don't know whether you noticed in option number 2, if we invest $710,000 for the next 10 years, we go from 51 to 47.
Yeah.
That really drove it home. Like, that's a lot of money, but we're still going downhill. So that's important. That's important. Sorry.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your work on it, and thank you. Okay, we're going to change it up here a little bit tonight. We're going to go right to number 6. First of all, do I need to move in a second to move into new business, please?
Also moved. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that's all right.
No worries.
All right, yeah, just for the benefit of our CAO, Jeff, he's got to leave for a family thing tonight, so we're going to jump right to number 6. Council doesn't mind, please. And it's the sample pre-budget department submission. Jeffrey.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is the results of a promise I made to committee a little while ago about looking at a different way of presenting the budget documents. This is a step towards providing more of a narrative budget document for you and an education document for you and for the public as to, as I said a year ago and to the public, about trying to show budget in a way that we know what we're buying. Like when we approve these numbers, what are we getting? So I've tried to come up with a format here. Some credits due to our friends down in the Halifax Regional Municipality, who I kind of borrowed some of their techniques from. And what I was trying to do here is show where council's priorities that you've told, or as we've understood them, are, how those priorities and initiatives have been acknowledged and identified, and then the budget that we see as being required to achieve the goals that you're setting forth. Also, one of the things that we had talked about previously is that the accountability side of things. So you'll see in the latter half of the report where we've kind of tried to build a work plan right into the document, saying when certain projects are expected to start, when they're expected to be completed, which gives a nice accountability feedback loop for you and each of the department heads, to me, and then for me to my department heads, to make sure that we are staying on track. And if we're not on track, we're at least discussing with you why we're not on track. One of the things in there as well is trying to identify any changes from year to year, at least the significant ones, and why we're predicting the changes. We do research into what MB Power rates are apparently going to do and feed those into our system, things like that. And if we can identify not only that we've changed it by how much, it allows you to better understand why certain things are maybe creeping up on us that are maybe beyond our control. So the document before you is what I've taken as the CAO business unit. Most of the service areas you'll see that are identified there are things that don't live somewhere else. So it's general government, it's insurance, it's the stuff we have to pay to the RSC. Obviously, it's my office and my staff. So this, if this is acceptable to council as a format and a way of laying this out, what we'll do is for each of our business units, they're currently working on the same spreadsheets you guys are used to seeing, the big detailed ones. These, I call it a pre-budget submission because what I would like to use these to have the conversation with you at upcoming committee of the whole meetings to make sure that we're capturing what it is you want us to do in 2025, and we get that part right. Once we have that and we have the strategic initiatives identified and the costings of those, then we can bring back the big document with all the numbers that have absolutely no narrative to it, but it's important numbers that you have to see. But this is a conversation piece, and it's a way to I think, for you to become familiar with what we do in each of our business units, because I think people get surprised sometimes about the things that we do kind of under the radar and behind the scenes that you don't see every day. And of course, it's a good tool because every intention is that all this will be at public meetings for the public to see what each of the departments do. One of the things I've had conversations with the BIA and the chamber is they don't realize who does what. So it's a nice tool for the general public to learn who does what and where things lie within our operation, and to look at increases, decreases, changes in how we do business, and have that conversation without a giant spreadsheet showing $12 million worth of numbers on a sheet, but more bite-sized, more digestible at a time. So that was the goal. Hopefully I came close to hitting the goal, but if the feedback from committee is positive, we'll start building. These guys have done their homework on their spreadsheets, but now we'll start turning the numbers on the spreadsheets into a story for you to actually comprehend and digest. If there's an element that anybody thinks might be missing, feel free to either let me know now, shoot me an email, because we're still playing with different ideas. How can we show this a little better? Like, the stuff about the staffing levels, breaking that out into a chart. We never used to do that for you, to say this department in 2024 had this many people. We're now asking you to add two people at this for this cost. We never used to do that for you very well. We might talk about it in passing, but we didn't actually put it in front of you as a chart. So if there's other elements that you think is important for yourselves, for the public, to really comprehend what we're doing, I'm happy to take any suggestions and build those in, and try and create a better document moving forward.
All right. Oh, you're not going to get out yet. Councillor Otis.
I like the spot there under alternatives where you talk about budget committee creating a position of a communications officer. I personally am in full support of that. I think we have a huge municipality, and it's not a bad idea for us to consider that. Would that be an ongoing position here within the municipality?
So that tells me the document worked, because that's the type of conversation that I'm hoping to have when we actually break these down live, because that alternative section of that cover report is designed for the staff to actually provide not only cost increases, but possible savings that we see, whether it's a potential service reduction or a different way of doing business. Well, it may not be what we have in our budget yet, but it's kind of on the fringe. So we have a spot to park that for you, to have a conversation to say, do you want to go down this road? And when we get into the details of it, we can have a chat just like this. And at the end of the chat, you either say, yes, we would like you to add, when you do the master budget, add this in, or don't add, or take this out, or whatever. So that's the exact conversation we want to have. It could be a one-time cost that we just identify for 1 year, or it could be an annual operating expense, depending on the nature of the discussion.
You do? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking it would be interesting to even trial that position for 1 year and just see how it goes, because I know from a lot of other departments, you guys each hand off different roles around communication, which takes away from your ability to do your actual role, whether it's community services, putting out event communication, or potentially Celeste or front desk. Like, everyone's kind of juggling that. So it would be interesting too to kind of get an idea from staff at how much of their time they spend doing communications, because I do probably think there is room for a full-time role there if you compiled all the communications work that's happening behind the scenes. So just thanks for including that. I think it's great, and it really aligns with our strategic plan and some of the things we've been talking about. So I'm impressed. Good job.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
For these guys.
All right. Yeah. No, appreciate that, Jeff, and you're free to go to your event there. So, and good luck with that. Thank you. All right, next up is community safety update. Kev Sumner, you got anything to add to that for this?
Not very much. Our crew, our parks crew, continue to sweep every day during the week, and there's been no update from my department. That's not to say Sean and his work crew might have found something, but nothing from community services. So it's good news.
I'm going to give a little shout out to our MLA because she assured me she's going to take care of something, and I noticed that has been taken care of. So as of now, anyway, I haven't seen the individual for a few days. So I'd like to thank the province for taking action on that. It was a long old process, and it's nice to see something happen, and so I appreciate that. And that's the only thing. Any more community safety items you want to bring up, Councillor Otis?
Well, and with that too, we'll shout out our CMP because they have been doing a really good job, I think, coordinating and advocating for themselves too, to try to have some support with some of the issues they're facing. So yeah, I think that's wonderful, and especially when it comes down to mental health and healthcare, it's important that people get the attention that they need. So
thanks. And thankfully, with that action, the hours don't have to go in and they can spend it on something else, but which is very appreciated because they were just spinning their tires, as we know what that's like, Sean. Okay, no further discussion. Thank you. We'll go on to potential process for managing road repair requests from rural ward residents. And I'm just going to open the floor up because that was brought by Councillor Cornish.
Mayor, about 2 weeks ago, I submitted a process design of how the actual resident contacts a ward councillor, and then how that actually transmits into something being done in the rural areas, because we have very little authority in the rural areas. It hasn't been turned over to us. Several of us in this room worked on it for a year, and we were under the assumption that the rural area would be part of the municipal district of St. Stephen shortly. It's not. Fire department, yes. A few other things, not. So let's just talk about the lowest form of life, potholes. We get numbers of calls on potholes. The procedure for a pothole is we do not have a local representative who can give you a shot. We are not allowed to go to our local management team and complain about a pothole or identify it. If the resident wants a pothole fixed, sometimes they call us. If we call it into Fredericton, we get, what's your address? Is that where the pothole is? No, the address is 2 clicks out the road or in a different area. Oh, I'm sorry. You'll have to have the resident call us. So that is an embarrassing situation for a councillor. It's also a poor process since they are assuming that we do have some authority in the rural areas. We can't get your trees cut. We can't get the power commission to do some things. So lots of times we do workarounds and try to do our best to get things fixed. Now I submitted this diagram, sent it to all the councillors, and I got some good feedback. And I have truncated it, thanks to some of our councillors that gave me feedback in it. What I have here now may be good when we take it over, because we have 2 processes here in the municipal district of St. Stephen. One, if you live within the urban area, Ward 2, then you can contact the town manager or any of the people. We're not allowed to talk to the crews or anything like that, so we have the appropriate person we could talk to, or they can talk to them direct. In the rural areas, we've got ourselves, or they have to do a workaround, or they go online and try to find out where it is, which is kind of a fun adventure. So anyway, the bottom line is I'm going to basically come up with one that we have worked out again, shorter than the one that's on your minutes, is that one, when a councillor gets contacted by a resident, and even prior to that, our residents, somehow we've got to get the information to them. That's also another burden, how we actually talk to our residents in the rural area. It could be as simple as, at least for now, that they have a contact. We have a number that goes directly through to St. John, I believe, the spot, where they give their complaint or their request. It is recorded, then it is tracked, then quarterly, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, then someone from provincial government tells us that we got 100 complaints about potholes. We'll just do that as the lowest form of life, and how many were actually fixed, repaired, or did they get back to the individual? So it could be the first step is very simple. We have a contact number that's appropriate. And I know someone's going to say, yes, online, yeah. But when you're looking at someone at home, they haven't got the time, they haven't got the willingness, they may not even have the facilities to be able to do it. So a contact line basically where they get directly to the source, that source manages that situation, and hopefully we'll get feedback whether it's fixed or not. We'll probably get feedback from our residents first, and over a period, say quarterly, we'll know there's been 100 potholes identified, and 89 have been fixed or one's been fixed. Now, gentlemen, you were part of this too. Would you like to say a few things? Over to Wade and Earl.
No, I'd like the spreadsheet the way that you did is quite it's quite straightforward, actually. The thing at the end of the day is always the contact with the province to get it done and to give feedback so we know where we are in the process.
No, I'm good. So that's like basically our request is basically we would ask the town manager, I suppose, if you people are in agreement with it, to get a known contact number for our residents in the rural area, and we make sure that we are in the loop by getting reports back from the government, provincial government, when things are happening. That way we start managing it, because one of these days, God only knows when we're going to get it. It could be next week, it could be 5 years. But in the meantime, we still owe it to our rural residents to be able to have some tools to get some action. Thank you very much, Mayor. Over to you.
Do you want to go first? Okay, go ahead.
I want to shout out to a citizen in the room who I spoke to, and I actually asked her to do a little bit of digging herself as, you know, resident of a rural ward as to how to go about this. So I'm happy to take on like the electronic social media part of it. We talked about maybe just doing like a quick infographic and putting it out. And I think that would help too if just there's kind of an infographic at the front desk where if somebody comes in, they can just pick it up and it lays it step by step out. But I do like the idea of call forwarding because I consider myself not just a counselor who represents Ward 2, but all of the municipal district, and it is a struggle when people commute every single day through certain pathways and have issues with the roads and don't know where to start. And I think it's tough because we've just developed this new technology that's wonderful where we have people are able to kind of come to us and say, this is the issue we're having with this road, can you do something about it? And we've made it accessible for the inner town, but externally it is frustrating when you ask a counselor and the counselor says, well, here are all the hoops, and you have to call yourself. So even a simple call forwarding would be great. If, you know, they call the front desk and they say, we'll forward you to whatever. Same with our website. If they go on and they have the portal and it could say on our website, if you're a rural resident, you'd like to make a request to DTI, click here. I need to go through and sift through that information, but I do like the idea of just making it accessible, not taking it on, but just creating accessible avenues for people to click or call or do whatever they need to do.
Councilor Wright?
I'm going to be the voice that is not necessarily jumping on board with this. Number one, if a citizen in Ward 2 wants a road fixed, general practice wouldn't be to call the councillor, it'd be called to town and say, there's an issue with my road. So we need to take the politics out of it. So a road shouldn't get fixed just because a councillor called. And we're looking at adopting a road assessment plan. So we won't want to be creating a situation where it seems like councillors can jump that. So just like the Municipal Centre has one for Ward 2 and has a process where citizens can reach out directly. It's my understanding that the province also has a situation where the citizens can reach out directly. So I look at it as adding another layer of bureaucracy and adding a level to our town staff for something they aren't actually responsible for. Now, that doesn't mean we can't advocate for the province to set up something different. My biggest problem with it, though, we're taking this on and saying we want to have this on for citizens, but we're assuming that when our town, our CAO or a staff member passes something on to the province, that the province has the responsibility to accept it from the town. Right now, the province says we need to hear from the citizen. If they don't change that, then we're beating our head against a wall to try to implement a process that the province is just going to go, who are you and why are you calling? So tell the citizen to call. Like, I think there are, having the information, we have an infographic, this is what their RSC is responsible for, this is what the municipality is responsible for, and the province and the feds, we have that already. And having it clearly delined, if you're in Ward 2, call the town hall if you feel there's a road that needs urgent attention. If you're in the rural wards, here's the number for DTI or here's the link. But to try to set up a workaround when we don't even have provincial buy-in, I'm not on board with that.
Okay. Any more discussions or comments? I'll just make my own comments. At this point, I'm leaning towards Councillor Wright, actually. We take enough responsibility for the province as it is. No, so just let them do their job. I agree with pushing and getting them to set up a system like ours if it works well for them and something like that. But once you start doing it, you're going to take ownership, and once you take ownership, and then the other thing is, right now we have staff that looks after what's budgeted and our services that we provide. Who is going to take that role? And because there's no budget for it, who's going to take care of the cost of staff looking after that role too. But again, if there's something we can put there that gives them the number and push to get a better response and a better system in place for like rating our roads, like we just discussed tonight. It's something like that. I'd definitely be all for that, and we can push those things with our representatives. But other than that, that's where I sit on it right now.
Mr. Mayor, what's our next? No, sorry. Okay.
Do you want to speak again, or? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry. I disagree with you and Ms. Wright on most of that, what you just said. It's good to just say, whoa, nothing we can do about it. But Emily and I think, agree. There's several of us around the table have already had conversations where we agree. If we do not stop pushing on little things like the pothole, we've got one hell of a big hill to climb when it comes down when we accept these things. Example, these people here were just here a few minutes ago about our internal roads. Before we take over the rural areas, we should basically have due diligence done on those highways to make sure we know what we're getting. I've been telling you people for months, I've been collecting information on all my roads. I know where every tree is, where every pothole is, every dent. So when it comes to the time we take over those roads, I want to be prepared to be basically, hey, we got some problems, we got some areas that don't need some. I was out driving today, actually. They're out cutting trees. Finally. 7:35, right to the end, almost out to, well, it looks like they might even go right out to Nichols camps. We're going to stop short of it, but at least we've got one done. Now, we've been bitching and complaining about the trees, being successful with a few of them. So I think we've been successful in putting a little bit of pressure on. Bottom line for this one, no, I'm not backing off. Our rural ward people need that tool, and I think you've come pretty close to it. I don't know if we have to make a motion to get our town manager to look into it, but no, I'm not backing off on that. We've got to have some things that's low as a pothole and a tool that our residents can get at without going through this.
Councilor Rodas.
My concern isn't even really like whatever ward it is or what the state of the roads are. My concern is more just about the citizen experience, and we don't have a responsibility to take over, obviously, provincial mandates, but we do have a responsibility for the citizen experience. So I can imagine how frustrating it would be to, live out in Mayfield and be called the Municipal District of St. Stephen, but not be able to have any sort of tool. So I think keeping it simple, like just a call forwarding, phone number, infographic, online link, that's where it ends. But that's a great tool that aligns with our strategic plan of a positive citizen experience when they can come to Councillor Cornish and say, hey, you represent me. This is the issue I'm having on my road. I need support. He can say, here's the options. You can go on the MDSS website. You can click this link. If you call the front desk, they can forward you to the DTI number, or you can pick up the infographic or follow Emily Rodas on Facebook, and she's shared a lovely infographic that Chandra Best supported her with. So just that simple citizen experience thing goes a long way, and I think that removes all the politics from it too as well. This isn't really about potholes or roads. It's more about just somebody feeling like a counselor is there to represent them, but they're not able to do anything. So I hope that clarifies my position on that.
Okay. Councillor Heislip.
I don't know. I'm on both. I see the validity of both arguments, and just to get a number or a contact would switch this infographic to 2 lines, right?
Yeah.
Citizen calls DTI. So I don't know why. I don't know. I did engineering and keep it simple. Keep it simple, silly, or whatever you want to use there. I mean, geez, I grew up in Morris Mills. We had, you just called somebody. That's all. And really, that's what we do now. Once in a while, I'll go to Tim Hortons and say, geez, really bad pothole down there. And I'll call somebody up from Public Works and, and just leave a note, a CC Jeff, and it's usually taken care of pretty fast. I mean, I know we have that portal now that will, track your requests or whatever, but I find that works well for me in the last 7 years, and I don't, I don't know where you want to go with this, but I mean, I think that, like as Joy said though too, that if they're not going to buy into this, I know City of Halifax have had to report a pothole for years and years and years, but that's the city does that, like we're doing our portal. But anything outside, it's the greater Halifax region now, right? So they I don't know what they do, but this is going to have to be on the province to do that, and to push them to do that, I'd say highly unlikely, but they should have a contact. I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Cornish.
My suggestion is that I agree with both fellow councillors here and the other councillors in Ward 3, and I don't know whether it's a proposal, official proposal, whatever, but we keep saying the government will go, we don't know. I mean, they're at the end of the pipe. When that resident does phone in, there is someone at the end of the pipe, I believe. I don't know how long it takes to get back to them, where it gets fixed or not. So I think the process is there. It's just not being managed properly. Whether they're going to track it or not, I'm assuming they track things. That's a big assumption. But it's not a political thing here. This is a representation for our people. Nothing to do with politics at all. Let's approach them, bounce your idea off, which I think is good, and see if they'll say, okay, help us. But the process is already there. It's a matter of just getting them connected to them. But we got to make sure to them, when that phone call comes in, we'd like to have you to track that also. We want to know, make sure that we are making headway. So I don't think this is a big deal. We got the tools already there, as Emily was saying. So let's just go ahead. Someone let them know up Fredericton that they may be getting a few more phone calls on a different way. Yes. A little more emphasis on it. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I just hit the button. Go ahead.
Just did a simple search and report a pothole in New Brunswick. Contact Transportation Information Center at 1-833-384-4111 or email transportmb@gmb.ca.
Throw it on the website.
So, for current, so I don't know.
Let's get it on our website.
Yeah, I don't know why we're
Okay, yeah, so that's a little different than how this started. So, yeah, so that's why I'm going to say, I am not against that, but the whole, this is a little too much to me.
Yeah, I've already said.
Yeah, no.
Maybe in the future. It may be, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But we put that out there,
Yeah.
so we get, and we did get comments.
You're not lit up, so.
That's okay.
so, all right, but yeah, so I don't disagree with getting the number and getting it set up and moving forward, yes. But I don't want to create a call center in here, because there's enough calls coming in here now, and we're not getting things done as it is, I don't want to add more to that. And since you got to keep it very clear, is they're keeping 42% of the tax rate to do that work, the province, and that's their role. But anyway, so no, I don't totally disagree, Councilor Cornish. You want to speak again?
Yep. So I'm assuming that our town manager's not here right now, that you'll pass that on and make sure that we do something on our website and get that, what you just had put out there, Dave, make sure it's posted somehow. We start getting people to go with that. And we should have those numbers ourselves also right on our phone. If someone does call in, we can do that. We can circumvent that one. So that gives them two. One, they can call us, we give them a number. The other one, they can call, look at the website or the town website itself and get that number. So let's try that for a while. That'll start, hopefully, get us to when we take over this vast turf. Thank you.
Okay, so do I have the will of council to add a number to, I asked the question, we're talking about the infographic we already have and adding that number to it under the provincial responsibilities? Is that what we're talking about?
Just a small infographic that would say, here's the website, here's the phone number, and like essentially a specific infographic that says we do not have responsibility for rural roads. It's either option A, B, or C. I mean, even Minister Box's email on there is helpful because it just helps people know, like, you need to contact your provincial rep, not a councillor. And here are the two. So, yeah.
I have the will of council to move forward. It looks like
I think, yeah, something, there's that portal that we have to go through to go and report things there, and there could be something as part of that saying, for rural residents, Ward 1 and 3, please use this number to contact for potholes instead of using because some of them will probably try to use the portal for. That's what I'm worried about too. Use the portal for town and for the urban center, right? So, I don't know how it works, so you probably be better with that, Sean.
Jeff and I actually talked about this today, that, what if a rural resident tries to put in a pothole and take David's Ridge, how would we handle that? And we would basically say, here's the phone number to call, and done. At this point, we'll give you the information and close the file. So if they do come in through it, that's how that would be handled.
Do I want that? Do I want that? No.
Brian, I'd like to clear this up a little more in detail before we dig into that one. Yeah, but
anyway, no, you're right on. You're in the same situation we are lots of times. Matter of fact, I've called you about a pothole in our area. Thank God I knew you, because after people took several tie rod ends off the front of their car, you made it happen because you got a hold of the right people, because I thought it was actually our street, but it wasn't. So anyway, we're all on the same page. We just want a path and get it publicized. Our problem is a lot of our stuff's not publicized. So I'm done.
Okay, no, good. Sure.
No, don't turn my crank.
All right, let's move on. Where are we here? Potential process for managing roads. Request to rename the town square St. Stephen Plaza. Is any discussion on that, folks? Councilor Eastman.
Yeah, there's two proposals on one page, and then there's another one from the BIA. So what are we voting on here? Or what's the discussion on here?
Where do we want to go?
Okay. Good one. Don't mind the change of what they're trying to do here. It's just a matter of picking the right change, I guess.
Right. Okay. That's right.
I was just going to say this flowed out of other committee where the letter had come into our emails requesting the formal name change, and the discussion was, let's see if any other ideas come back and then bring it back. So that's where the other names came from. but the specific request from the BIA was for Station Square.
Any other comments, concerns? Councillor Otis?
I think it depends on what we want the focal point of the community to be, because if it is Station Square, it's pretty evident that there's a significant historical train station there. So I do like that. I also like the idea of plaza though, because it draws in community. It's got a community vibe to it. So, I mean, either or, I think they're both fantastic. I actually would prefer somebody make a decision like this for me because they're both great. And, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Just a comment, Mayor?
You can go, and then once I give you the green light, go ahead.
Thank you. There it is. There you go. I have no problem changing a name. I'd like to wait we got a couple of things in the fire pit right now that we're not talking in public with, and some of those things, well, I can talk about one. Let's talk about the basketball court, the gentleman here tonight. But we've got a few other things. I'm not quite got my handle around what to call that thing. Because if the World Basketball Court materializes, and we got a couple other things that we're talking secret about, whatever, I'm almost like to hold off for a few months to make sure we get the right handle on this thing before we go renaming it. I'm done.
I'd like to know the secrets. Anyway, I'm going to take the Emily Road here because they both work. Only thing I've seen in the past, no matter what you name something, the last name still sticks and doesn't go away. It's always a challenge. So that's kind of where I kind of like to keep the plaza in there because it's been called that. But I do see what Councillor Cornish is saying too. So, but I guess you can change the name again. Yeah.
Put a motion on the floor.
Well, there's no motion on the floor. This is all discussion, and then we can. I just need the will of council to move it forward to 2 weeks away. Oh, we can table it too. Yeah. Councillor Harding.
That was what I was going to say. Let's table it.
Go ahead, Councillor Heisler.
Well, what are we tabling? I mean, we're just discussing it tonight. So, I mean, we're not tabling anything. You can't table it until there's a... No.
I understand that, but
The only one we can table is at a council meeting, right? So I don't know what we're tabling. We're just discussing it. So.
Conversation. Councillor Greenlaw.
I just figured we should just vote on it at the next council meeting and get it over with. Take the three and will of council and vote and, right?
Option 1, 2, and 3.
Because we're going to beat this to death here, and we got more. So I think we should just vote on it at the next council meeting. So.
Okay, everyone got the Councillor Wright.
I was just going to say one thing. Town Plaza is easy. If you tell someone to go to town square, most people know it's in the center of town. Doesn't matter what town you're in. You find, all paths lead to the center kind of thing. Station Square could, you got Market Square's a mall. So it's not that I dislike the name, it's that is it really pointing people, if you're like, oh, that's in Station Square, is people immediately going to know that that's the downtown plaza. That's the only feedback I have about it, but really it's a name, what's there still matters, so I'd be happy for it to go to a vote whenever, but I'm also happy for it to stay the same, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're doing here right now. I'll have to clarify this, is we're not voting, we're talking, and if we talk about these same scenarios and people hear us talking about them, they're going to reach out to you and give you their opinion, and that's why we have that 2-week lapse between meetings. So hopefully they heard the three names, and then Deputy, just 1 second, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Well, I'm just wondering, because there's 2 more names on there, Centennial Square and Centennial, are they in the running?
Any names in the running as far as when we get ready to vote, as long as they're on the list. Yeah. I think some of those came from citizens.
Yeah. Well, like Centennial would be 100, but we celebrate at 150.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that ties in with the Centennial marker we have there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Otis?
I honestly think Plaza's the least biased name, maybe, because it's more neutral, so it doesn't represent like a centennial monument or a train station. It just represents all of it, all encompassing. So it may be it may be best in terms of the public when you have different groups, you know, pushing for different names. The way to be most neutral and fair to everyone really is to not choose one path that's specific to one particular, you know, landmark in that location. And I do agree with Councillor Wright. When you say Town Plaza, people just think I'm going downtown. So it is pretty, not to say that we can't extend the patio down there and we could call it the station patio. There's other ways we can incorporate those names, I think, but just throwing that out there.
Any more discussion on that? Did Jeff have anything that he left you to bring up on that topic? No? Okay. All right. Anyone's got any ideas or questions to council, please reach out. Okay. We're getting there. Let's see. Next up is a third draft disposition. Did I skip one?
The second half of that Councillor Eastman pointed out, so there's two parts to that. There was the one about the food trucks, right?
Yeah, right here.
That's number 5. Well, number 5. I think I'm good. It's happened before. I'm not saying I don't mess up, but I think I'm good.
The attachment on that one.
Oh, okay. No, I got it here. Yep. So I'm going to go back to number 4, third draft disposition of the acquisition of the municipal land policy. Added definition of fair market value, page 1 to 14, and amend item F on Schedule A. And I'm not reading the rest of that. Okay, is there any questions or comments for council's discussion on that? Councilor Greenlaw.
I just had a few things I want to clarify. I'll send them through to Jeff, and no sense in discussing them here, but it's pretty good. It's getting there.
Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully we can vote on it soon and get it going and start getting rid of some of the surplus land we have.
Surplus land going is can turn into housing. So, okay, good. So we'll just keep that. That's still moving forward. Thank you, council. Next up, this review of the bylaw L-2, the bylaw to license and regulate peddlers, street vendors, and transient traders and buskers for review and discussion. Is there any discussion on that, folks? Councilor Greenlaw?
Yeah, so you can see how long, I think this was 2004 since it's been updated. And so it does need a tune-up. And I know the BIA is, and you know, chamber people have submitted you know, a request to have it looked at based on the effect of food trucks and stuff coming into town. So I think we need to go through this. I've actually looked at a couple other examples in different areas, and there are a lot of things to consider. For instance, if for instance, you know, a food establishment in town wanted to have a food truck in town, there's different rules around what, you know, whether they can have one or not. So I think we need to look at this and look at some of the best practices out there and help protect the businesses in town a little better.
Okay, so do I get the will of council to have Jeff and his team dig into this and build something that may adapt to our municipality with the upcoming changes? Because I do agree with the changes. I didn't know it was that long ago, 2004. Because yeah, okay, that's been a long time ago. But I know that we've discussed it many times there at the time, and I totally understand that. It's a sore spot, and you see it happening in all the municipalities that do this. Is you got your businesses that are brick and mortar, and they're in our community, they're paying taxes, they're here all week long when it's slow, and then a truck rolls in on the weekend and takes gravy time. I get it, and we get a lot more food to offer, which was brought up by the BIA as well in the chamber, and I recognize that as well. But we got to find a balance there, because there is people in the community that want us to bring those food trucks here, but we just got to find a better way of doing it. So let's dig into it and compare it to some other municipalities and see how they're doing it, and see if we can get something that makes everybody happy. And I got another hand up. Councilor Wright.
I was just going to say thank you. I wouldn't be a fan at first blush of the whatever proposal Jeff and his crew work on saying no food trucks. For example, there was one weekend a food truck was here. I don't go to them very often, but there was one that was, and I didn't realize it was coming. I hadn't planned to eat out, so it didn't take anything because I wouldn't have eaten out if that food truck wasn't here, and it's nice to get cuisines maybe that you can't get elsewhere. So definitely we need to look at the fee schedules and maybe the frequency schedules, but eliminating them, as some communities I know do. Not sure, but having a conversation I think is in order.
Yeah. And so just one second. Just on that, there is value, believe it or not, and this, I mean, our local taxpayers aren't going to appreciate it, but there is value because it does create a traffic just like an event does. And just as Joyce is alluding to, people may say, oh, that this truck's coming, they'll come in town, but they also might go to Pizza Light and whatever with the other parts of their family or whatever while they're here. So there was value. That's why I was surprised it's so far back, because I know we did talk about this quite deeply there quite a few years ago, but not that far, because I wasn't here that far ago. And so that part of the equation does come into play. There is value. But and the other thing I want to make sure we talk about is like if a food truck comes, and I don't want to pick on I won't mention the business name, but they can go on someone else's property, which is right out of our hands. So we got to maybe figure out how we as council or as municipality can control that too, because it's someone's parking lot, not ours. But so hang on, Councillor Harding.
Thank you. Your Worship, I want to go back to a couple of things that was said in new business. First of all, I want to also thank Minister Bacchus. She was at my house on the weekend, told me what was going to happen or who the people that she had approached for the one situation that we had in town. It's really nice to be able to talk about things like that. But if you want to talk about it, you should do the walk too. Anyway, and on a second thing, I want to congratulate Heather. I know that you are behind the best looking mural in the town of St. Stephen. You did a great job. It looks wonderful. It is so good to drive downtown and see something nice for a change. So thank you very much. You did a wonderful job.
Well, to give you that, thanks, Heather, but we got to get back on the topic that we're on. Sorry. Is yours on the topic?
Yeah, it is.
All right, Councillor Otis.
Trying to give a word in.
The one thing I did wonder is, would it make a difference if we had a distance clause in a bylaw in terms of even if it's on somebody's property, so it can't be just the same way, for instance, if two Tim Hortons franchises are in town, they can't be so close because it's competing business. I think that might be a way around it where we say, you know, if this is our core downtown and our local businesses down here, okay.
But I think
But if the private, the private, like, that's the tricky part I'm saying, is if there's no food trucks allowed at a certain distance, but I say I'd like it on my property, that's like where it gets a little bit tricky, is you can't really enforce that if it's on someone's private property. But I also want to shout out to Heather Donahue, because the package that outlisted all the businesses as well, and just how much development we've had downtown, like, it really drives it home how important it is when we have all this new cuisine downtown and they are trying to get their feet on the ground and have a great start. So I think the food truck argument right now, more than ever, is really critical because of that. And I'd actually love to see our local businesses downtown, like Pyra and the new CS Kitchen, have their own, like, market. I'd prefer to give them a space to do that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there is a bylaw that they can't be down in our BIA zone at certain times of the year, but definitely, there's no question it needs to be revamped or redone. So I think we all agree on that. And I think we need to look at the fee too, because again, you have your taxpayers paying their share, and then someone comes in for a $100 peddler's license, and away they go. You sure can? Go ahead, Councillor.
Over the last couple of years, I noticed I don't know how it even fits. Know anything about this subject at all, really. But we have I think we call it a Rib Fest. Does that come in the same mandate again? Like these guys are coming in from all over, wherever. Does that fit in this equation? I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up.
It's an event, and that goes right to drawing people in, but it's. Yeah, it can turn into a lot. Let's just see what we can do with it and do our best and try to adjust it to appease our citizens and just make some improvements to it.
Suggested to do the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. Councillor Heislip?
I was looking at this, and it was, I was just adding up the hours. There's 47 hours that we had food trucks in town, and I said, well, geez, we've got 28 businesses, 56,160 hours that they're open during the year based on an 8 hours. So it's very little, but I know I see the point, though. If I was, selling Indian food and somebody else parked across the way from me and selling it and seeing the line up outside, I'd be very distraught of what was going on. But, I mean, I think we can work around that or see what other communities do. And yeah.
Okay. It's a tough subject, guys and girls. It is. It's a tough subject. Thank you. That's it? Okay. Well, not it. Okay. That's it for everybody else. Okay. So I need a mover and seconder as pursuant to Section 68, Bracket 1, the Local Governments Act. The council moved to a closed session for the purpose of discussing a third-party confidentiality. Councillor Eastman, Councillor Greenlaw. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.